Welcome back to the Goonerverse, everyone. Of course, Arsenal are top of the league. We've opened a gap on Man City and Liverpool. We're going to talk about our rivals in this podcast because I think we've been due that conversation, Sheroy and I. So we're going to talk about what's going on with them and the rest of the Premier League. I want to talk about some of the usual kind of media antics around Arsenal and the conversation around the way we're playing, our style, the way we're winning games, questions about sustainability. And of course, we're going to go into the Carabao Cup, the importance of winning that game, what a level we want to see. We'll debate that in detail and talk about much, much more, because where Loose Cannons exists as a post-match and pre-match podcast, this is an Arsenal news podcast. This is a podcast where we take everything that's going on around the Arsenal world and break it down once a week. I'm back with Sheroy. Sheroy, it's always great to see you. How was your wedding?
I told you, bro, there's no more weddings until next year. Although I got a message yesterday saying that I have to plan a 20-man stag in Marrakesh. So that's going to be fun. That's
wow.
Going to be really fun. Yeah.
When are you going?
I think it'll be around March, April, around the sort of time that I turn 36 too. So maybe I can coordinate it so I can celebrate my birthday out there and have a little free party on the stag. But let's see. That's all in the future. And as we're told as Arsenal fans, right, we shouldn't look too far ahead. So I'm not going to look too far ahead in terms of March or April or what might be happening then. I'm just going to take it day by day and enjoy October for now, big man. How are you?
Yeah, all good. The birthday celebrations are finally done. I know people were sick of me. Actually, let me not say that. No one ever said that they were sick of me going on about birthday celebration and stuff. But when people were asking what was going on, that was typically the answer. But people can't see, but the decorations are finally down. The balloons are down. So yeah, anyway.
I've got a little bone to pick with the community about your birthday. I told people we had to get you to 60K.
Oh no.
Your birthday has passed and we're at 59.3.
Yeah. It was a solid effort. Yeah, it was a very solid effort, but
it's not too late. It's not too late. We can still do it now. We don't want to be the nearly men on this podcast. We don't. We set a challenge. We laid a gauntlet down. You lot have to help us out here. 60K, that's an extra 700 subs. 700 of you watching. Come on now. Just hit subscribe and give him a little belated birthday present. And then you'll stop hearing about his birthday. If you are sick of it, then you'll stop. But until we get to 60, I'm going to keep doing it. Rightly
so. But yeah. I think when we get to 60, we'll probably then start begging for 70. So there we go. That's kind of the fun of it, isn't it? Yeah. I had a really nice moment on the weekend. I was at the Arsenal Palace game. And I took Becky for the first time. She'd never been to a football match before, let alone an Arsenal game. She loved it. We won. I mean, poor girl, I said after 30 minutes, I went, this might be the most boring 30 minutes of football I've ever seen at the Emirates. So I am sorry, but we can be a little bit like this. But there's a really nice moment before the game. She said, what's the capacity of the stadium? I said 60,000. She said, do you realise that this is the amount of people that subscribe to your channel? And I was like, oh, that's really sweet. And I never thought of it that way. But it was quite like a cool way to look at it. So everyone, get me to the magic Emirates capacity.
What a beautiful metric. Bro, surely you sat there and looked around and said, this many people subscribe to my channel and they sit there and watch me in my bedroom with my balloons hanging over my set talking about football. And I could fill up one of the landmark stadiums in London, in the capital city. Big up. Big up yourself.
No, big up yourself. Big up Becky for pointing it out. But it was a sweet moment. I was like, oh, you know what? That's quite an amazing way to look at it. So a big thank you to everyone who is subscribed. Really thank you. I know everyone says it. I know every YouTuber says, please like and subscribe. Really helps the video. It means a lot, blah, blah. It genuinely means a lot. It really does. It's what's driving me and us to do this every day or every week. So thank you to those who are. And if you do want to be kept up to date with what we're doing, hit the subscribe button and you will see our videos pop up. The latest one I did, which is definitely something I want your take on, I basically titled it something like "Don't Miss This Moment," and I think that is definitely a theme I want to take into this podcast at some point. Is looking at whether we are too hypercritical, we're too fixated on perfection. And so we're always looking at what we're not doing right. I think I've been guilty of that. I think we've all been guilty of that. But I think it's very strange for there to be a narrative around what Arsenal aren't doing right at the moment. when we seem to not only be the most consistent team in the league, the best team in the league in terms of results, but also I think the trendsetters in the league. So I'm excited to go into that. And we'll obviously talk about the media, what they've been saying about Arsenal's style of football, like I mentioned, City and Liverpool, and we'll go into Brighton. So with that, I do want to start with something else very, very quickly. An apology to Bob and Brian, who very, very kindly jumped on the live I was doing post the Palace win and sent super chats in. And in my not so heated but somewhat lively debate with other commenters about Gyökeres and his performances, I completely forgot to read the super chat, so real apologies to them. But Bob did send in a super chat saying, "Hi James, I'm late joining this chat. I was impressed with the performance and result today. I'd give Gyökeres a 7. He's a good outlet for us." I completely agree with you, Bob. Brian also sent one in saying, "I honestly thought Arteta couldn't get us over the line, and I was doubting him after last season, but the depth was the biggest issue, it seems." And I agree with that too, Brian. So big thank you. All right, with those out of the way, let's get into the main talking points. And look, we will talk about enjoying the moment, the football we're playing in a sec, but I think a nice entry point for that conversation is Jeff Stelling on TalkSport, saying that he finds Arsenal, he's like watching paint dry. He wants to see us be more expansive. Said that after 30 minutes of watching the Palace game, he had to turn over to Villa Man City. Pretty critical of Arsenal's football, as have many people been. Chelsea fan accounts, rival fan accounts in general, salty rival fans, and some Arsenal fans who are really concerned about the football we're playing, despite the results, questions of sustainability. I think I could ask you 6, 7, 8 questions in this, Sheroy. So I'm just going to let you take it where you want to go. How do you feel about the, I don't know, media narrative, the baiting at times, the salty tears of rival fans? And how do you feel about the football we're playing?
Was it like watching paint dry when we put 4 past a Simeone team? Was it like watching paint dry when we scored a last-minute equaliser against City and had everyone off their seats? Was it like watching paint dry when we come back from behind at St James's Park in a game that everyone says if you lose, you could lose the title here? We often say that no one wins or loses the title this early, but you could lose the title here. Was it like watching paint dry when we put, 5 past Leeds? Was it like watching paint dry when we put 3 past Forest? Was it like watching paint dry when, I know we didn't hammer Olympiacos, but we could have scored a lot more with Ødegaard piercing through that defence that day? Was it like watching paint dry then? Or are people only honing in on, as you said, the first 30 minutes against Palace? Because I didn't even think the second half of that game was like watching paint dry, quite frankly. I thought it was only really the first half hour. Bro, we have had, in years gone by, the media calling us soft, a soft underbelly, a team that doesn't know how to defend, a team that only wants to play pretty football, but you're never going to get over the line. So we address those concerns. We find an effective style of play, but it's still not what they want. To be honest with you, and not just in football, bro, but in general life, if you think you're doing well, and objectively, whatever metric you're meant to be judging yourself by says that you're doing well, in this case, the Premier League table, everyone else can go and do one. Everyone else can go and do one. I say that just with regard to the external noise. And when you told me what the talking points were, every so often I go on that cesspool that's known as X, formerly known as Twitter, and it's striking because I'm looking at Sky Sports now. Attacking record for Arsenal, Premier League rank this season. Look, it does say percentage goals from open play, 20th. It does say percentage XG from open play, 19th in terms of where we would rank in the table. That is something that I think it would be weird of us not to discuss it, because that isn't, we're behind our competitors. That is bottom. So that's a talking point. Is it a talking point that's proving fatal? Is it a talking point that's proving calamitous? No. So it doesn't need to be attributed the level of weight that it's being attributed now. That isn't to say that it can't come back and rear its ugly head later if other things that we're doing don't persist, right? That wasn't the only one, though. There was another one, Sky Sports. 19% of all Premier League goals this season have come via corners. That's not just us, that's all Premier League goals. But which graphic do they choose to use? Arsenal players, to illustrate that it's somehow our fault, right? They could have used anyone, but they used us. Match of the day. You ever seen this? A table.
Yeah.
What would the Premier League table look like if set piece goals didn't count? I've never seen a table like that. And even then, bro, we'd be 3 points off the top. Even then, we'd be 3 points off the top. We'd still very much be firmly in a title race without them. So that's all to say that, look, it is being driven. It is being, people are sort of perceiving it as if it's our fault or we're doing something wrong. But how many managers over the years have received nothing but praise for finding a way? How many times did people look at us and say, find a way? We're doing it. We are doing it. But I've said all of that. I want to go back to the fact that we were 19th and 20 in those metrics, the open play metrics.
Well, actually, Sheroy, I'm so sorry to cut you. So, because you've raised loads of really good points, I think we should tackle each one. Cool. So one is the fact that we were soft, supposedly 10, 15 years ago, actually even more recently we're not. The context of why we're playing this style of football, why the media say the things they say, and then whether it's sustainable and the numbers that you've just mentioned there. What would you like to go with first? Shall we go with because you were in a bit of a flow and I kind of ruined it, but I want to make sure that we come back to those things. So you mentioned that we ranked 19th and 20th for those things. Should we tackle that and the sustainability element first?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay.
Let's go for it.
Well, carry on then. I interrupted you for no reason, but I just wanted to kind of make that clear for what's to come in the pod.
It wasn't for no reason. Do you remember the Fulham game, right? Ultimately, we get the goal from the set piece, but we both began the pod by saying, you know why I don't mind? Because this didn't look like a game where if the goal didn't come from a set piece, we were looking around saying, well, where's it going to come from? I felt as though if we needed to, we probably could have. And there were enough chances for us to get something from open play there. A lot of the goals that people are classing as goals from set pieces are actually, that Zubimendi stunner. That was from a corner ultimately, but my God, man. He laces it from outside of the box. Even Eze's goal on the weekend. Magnificent, magnificent goal. I do think that we are creating enough chances to win games without it. But what does Arteta always say? Play to your strengths, play to the opposition's weaknesses. Bro, what's our strength? People don't fashion chances against us. They just don't. When we get a lead, we know that we can protect it. The only criticism that some may level at us is, you don't go for the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth in the way that other teams might, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it, man. I firmly believe that it's sustainable, not just because of the fact that it's working now, but look at what we've got to come back in when you're talking about what we could create from open play. You're looking at Noni Madueke. You're looking at Martin Odegaard. You're looking at Kai Havertz. You're looking at players like Jesus. On the weekend, we had Saka, who was ill. All of these players coming in. Are you telling me that that's not going to assist our threat from open play? You're looking at Gyökeres, who hasn't even really started firing in front of goal yet. And I firmly believe that he will eventually start scoring, maybe not as prolifically as he did in Portugal, but certainly more often than he's scoring now. All of these things, it bodes well. We're still ahead in terms of where we ought to be this season when we look at our competitors. And for that reason and that reason alone, I'm personally nowhere near as concerned as the media would like me to be. But I don't know where you sit with it. I've not actually, I don't think you've discussed this sustainability point on another pod either, really in depth, have you?
Not really. I did a video on why our numbers suggest that we can go all the way in the Premier League and Champions League, but I didn't really tackle the sustainability element. My issue with the sustainability discourse is I just find it really lazy in terms of research. So people go it's not sustainable to keep winning games from set pieces. I'm like, cool, but we're not just winning games from set pieces, because you just mentioned all those games: Forest, Leeds. Let's go to the tough ones. Atletico at home, Newcastle away. These were games where even Manchester United away, actually, may I say, even though we got the final pass wrong, we were creating openings. We were creating chances. I saw a team that could attack with free will and make things happen. So I've just seen more than enough evidence this season that Arsenal can play very good attacking football and carve teams open another way. So the sustainability on that front, yes, the pure statement, you can't win the league by constantly relying on set pieces, is absolutely true. I just don't think that's what Arsenal are doing. I think Arsenal are the best at attacking and defending the biggest trend in the Premier League right now, which is set pieces, getting the ball into the box quickly, being really direct, being really efficient with how many touches it takes to go from one end of the pitch to the other. Arsenal have become a more direct team as well. We're looking to go long to Victor Gyökeres more. We're looking to throw that ball into the box more. We are taking brilliant set pieces. We scored from one, but you make a good point, and Turkish said this on Loose Cannons. Eze with that strike, Zubimendi against Forest. All right, it's a set piece, but when does a set piece stop becoming a set piece? You know, ultimately, that was just a moment of magic, and I don't remember people telling Man City that it wasn't sustainable when Foden and De Bruyne kept slapping it in the top corner en route to winning the title in 2024. You have a strength. You have something. You do better than the opposition. You're very good at fashioning the ability to create that chance. So you do it again and again and again. It's repeat patterns. You know, it's the same way tennis players have a particular, you know, a wide serve and volley, bam. They have something they go to. And this is Arsenal something they go to when they need something else. But I've seen plenty of evidence that we can do all the other things. And the final thing I'll say on the sustainability front is, can people just do their research? We have been in the top 4 for scoring goals from set pieces since Nicolas Jova arrived in the Premier League. It's actually, I'm going to get your talk on your thoughts on all this. I'm going to actually just get the numbers in front of me. But it's just nonsense that, like, in the last year, we've kind of been good and no one can stop us. We've been really good at it since 2021. And I like, yes, it's sustainable because nobody's been stopping us. And while it hasn't been a media narrative, there'll be set piece coaches of other teams who have tried time and time again to stop Arsenal from these situations and haven't been able to do it. Gabriel, as highlighted by Jamie Carragher, is on a better goal scoring rate, you know, per game than Virgil van Dijk, John Terry, and I can't remember the other player. So you think teams aren't trying to stop him? They are. So why have they not figured it out? Because actually there's only so much you can do about a wicked delivery to a box and a powerhouse 6'4", you know, monster at the back who wants it more than anyone on that pitch, who's got brilliant pace, who's got a brilliant header of the ball, whose movement understanding of where his teammate's going to put it is sensational. There's like almost nothing you can do to stop that. What can you do to stop the Atletico Madrid goal he scored? You can't do anything. So I think it's sustainable because I don't think it's the only thing Arsenal have. And I think there is years and years of evidence that Arsenal can keep doing it.
Yeah, and I don't like the fact that people seem to appreciate the level of skill that's required to do that. People don't appreciate it the same way that they attribute weight to open play goals. I'm sat there like, listen, if it was that easy to have delivery like Declan Rice, exactly, well, then far more people would do it. If it was that easy to have delivery like Bukayo Saka from the corners on that flank, then more people would do it. If it was that easy to simply man mark or zonal mark or double up on someone like Gabriel, then more people would do it. If it was simple enough to go, okay, fine, Gabriel's going to get his head on it, but we're going to have to make sure that Eze doesn't have that space in the box. So we're going to have to make sure, like Fulham, Trossard doesn't have that space in the box. So we're going to have to make sure that Saliba can't do what he does to a goalkeeper. Then more people would do it. The level of skill, the level of intellect, the level of tactical nous that goes into it is so undervalued and so underappreciated. If there is a way in which you can obtain some sort of competitive advantage, then go and do it. And I don't know about you. I really don't know about you, but bro, I'm thoroughly entertained when we score from them.
Mate.
I look at it and I wholly appreciate it. And I'm not just saying it from our perspective, even though the defending wasn't as great, and I know I shouldn't be praising them on this pod, but when I was looking at some of those Van de Ven headers, I was like, you know what? Nice. Good delivery. Good header. You know, I was sort of like fair play to you lot. Fair play. And so maybe I appreciate it a bit more than others, but look, we are where we are, man. We are where we are. But you can see I'm showing my teeth on this pod, so I have no qualms with the way that we're scoring our goals at the moment, because, as you say, it's not the only way that we are scoring.
Exactly, mate. Now I'm getting the numbers in front of me, so bear with me.
Yeah.
But what I've got here, okay, so Nicolas Jova arrived in the summer of 2021. Arsenal in the 1920 season were 8th for goals from set pieces with 12. The season after that, so what did I say? That was 1920. So 2021, Arsenal were 18th with 6 goals from set pieces. Do you remember these are the years we finished 8th? Everyone had a little laugh at us. Cool. 21-22, Nicolas Jova comes in. We jump up to 3rd behind, Manchester City and Liverpool. Oh, it's almost as if the 2 best teams in the league took it seriously and actually did it quite well too. We scored 16 goals. So massive jump. Let me just get those numbers again. From 6 to 16, 10 better. Now, bear with me a sec while I just load it. 22-23, the season we first started challenging for the title. We were playing brilliant football. Does everyone remember that? Playing really, really good football. Let me get the team statistics. set piece goals, Arsenal 4th with 15. So even a year with Zinchenko and Jesus and all that brilliant football we were playing, we were still scoring goals from set pieces. Top 4 for that as well. Then we go to the 23-24 season. We get to 89 points. We scored 20 goals from set pieces that season. And then we go to last season, 24-25. Team statistics, one more time. So I'm doing this all from who scored. Set pieces, Arsenal 4th last season with 15 goals. So since Nicolas Jova came in, 21-22, 22-23, 23-24. So this is his 5th full season. And we're at the very top. We're in that top 4 once again for goals from set pieces. And I've given you 4 different seasons. One, we're challenging for Champions League football. One, we're playing some of the most scintillating football in the league. Another, we didn't challenge for the title whatsoever. 2 of them, we looked like we could really go and do it. Goals from set pieces are constant in all of it. So I'm just like, no one's doing an ounce of research when they're talking about these things. They're just throwing things out there. And let me say, the style of football is a different conversation. We're going to get to that. But the sustainability around set pieces is just nonsense, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I've alluded to it before, but I feel like because of what we're talking about, I do need to say it again. People often don't analyze how you get a set piece.
Yeah.
How do you get the opportunity to put a dead ball into the box? You either have fashioned something more often than not from the wing, where you were in a very, very promising attacking position. So if that defender doesn't get the block in, why? It's because you're about to try and do something from open play. If you're getting a free kick on the edge of the box, why is that? It's largely because you've jinked past a man and you've been brought down because you were trying to do something attacking from open. These things aren't just given to you.
No,
you know?
Exactly.
They're not,
yeah,
unless you're
right.
right. So it does go to our style of play, and it does go to what we're trying to do in open play. But teams in the Premier League at the moment, from top to bottom, are very defensively astute. So yes, the importance of the set piece has gone up, but it's because teams are forcing us to take them because they're not letting us have as many clear-cut opportunities in front of goal. And that trend, looking at the numbers that you were discussing, ultimately the numbers really sort of shot up exponentially around the sort of time where people thought we were playing that first title challenge, right, where we were storming past teams, but eventually teams cottoned on and they started shutting up shop. So we had to change tack. You can't stand still. You have to evolve with the opposition that's in front of you. How often do we look at Arne Slot and listen to him now and criticize him for giving the other team shit for how they're playing against him? No, mate. Go and find the answer. If you don't like the fact that you can't press them when they go long, find another way, because we are.
Mm-hmm. Well, we did just evolve. Like I said, we're the trendsetters now. The league is looking at the way we're doing things because teams are more tactically secure than ever. Teams defend brilliantly. They're physical. They're strong. And Arsenal are having to find another way to get on top of that, because when I watched us against Palace, I have to say, I often watch Arsenal through the lens of what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. I kind of very rarely notice the opposition doing something really well or the opposition players doing something really well. But it really stood out to me how good Palace were. I really was like, damn, there are no passes through. I had a really good view of that first half because I was really high up behind the goal that Raya was in. So I had a really good view of like, right, are there passes for Saliba? Are there passes for Gabriel or Zubimendi? And when they weren't on, I was watching it sort of thinking, okay, we need something else, which is why I enjoyed Gyökeres's performance. I think he really helped us in terms of sort of stretching the back line and hitting the channels. But I was watching Palace feeling quite impressed by the way they were really blocking the lanes. But then when they did win the ball back, their wing backs were right up the pitch, stretching Timber and Calafiori all the way out. So I was watching that and thinking, they are tough. They are just tough to play. And if the results didn't prove it, if everything Glasner has done since he arrived didn't prove it, then certainly just, watching that 90 minutes, I thought, yeah, they're a very good side and fair play to them. So Arsenal found a way. They found a way where Liverpool and City didn't. Now we're going to talk about what they got wrong in just a sec. But I just want to touch on just a couple more things that wound me up about some of the stuff that people are saying online. You touched on it. Soft underbelly, weak, bullied. We're doing the flip now. And I don't remember anyone giving us credit when we were... I heard Gary Neville say something on his podcast. He said, Arsenal are like a massive football club and they're judged on the titles they win. And I did have a little moment where I thought, Gary, weren't you the one who told Arsenal fans they should have been a bit more grateful for Wenger and always getting in the top four? It's just very interesting how over time the narrative can change depending on what point you're trying to make. And that's true of all of us. We all do that. I do that. We all do that. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't remind people of what they used to say about us. Because we used to get bullied. We used to get dominated on set pieces. We used to get run all over. And Arsenal now doing that to the opposition. And there's always give and take. So you're going to be a little bit less entertaining on the eye. Though I think we're playing good football, you're going to be a little bit less of that when you're trying to get more physicality in the team. When you're trying to still play a way that ultimately stops the opposition bullying you. There is always give and take. There is no team in world football that's been able to do it all. It's never been done. The context is that teams, like I mentioned, are more organised than ever before. And I think the reason the media will always talk about these things, and why I don't want to be a hypocrite, guys. You've mentioned TalkSport, BBC Sport, and Sky Sports. Yeah, TalkSport, BBC Sport, Sky Sports. I have been very fortunate, very, very fortunate to be on all three. I did Sky Sports a few years ago, BBC Sport, I've been on the radio, and I'm going on TalkSport later this week. I was on last week. It's these media companies, like any, they have a lot of people with a lot of different personalities who have a lot of different opinions. No one entity, No one entity embodies the personality of said platform, let's say. So Jeff Stelling saying this stuff is what Jeff Stelling thinks. But we have to remember that there is always an element of, yes, it's probably his opinion. I met Jeff Stelling, seems a really nice guy. There's obviously an element of opinion. That's how he feels. That's fine. But people online, Arsenal fans, we're a massive football club. And there is an element of, we react to things. We react to things. They know that there's more currency in talking about Arsenal, even when we're top of the league, even when all our rivals have lost, even when we're clearly the best team in the league. There's more to get out of talking about us because we're a massive, massive, massive football club. And other teams don't always, some do, Liverpool, United and others, but they don't have that same pull. They don't get that same reaction. And I think we just need to remember this when everyone's talking about our team and being critical. It's also important to remember why they're doing it. Because I promise you, they'd all trade in their position for ours right now. So sorry for that long monologue. I probably just went on for another 3, 4, 5 minutes there. But I think it's just important to understand the context of why these conversations happen in terms of why Arsenal play the football they do and why people are always talking about us. I'm going to be on TalkSport tomorrow. I'm going to be on Inside Gooners. I'm sure maybe the style of football will come up. And, I'll defend it because that's my chance on that platform to say what I think of the style of football. But everyone has different opinions. But just remember that we're a massive football club and people talk about us. And we are, to a degree, hated, but we're certainly talked about.
And not just talked about in terms of style of play. I mean, you mentioned Gary Neville. Was it not that same Gary Neville that said, well, if Mikel Arteta gets Arsenal into the top 4, if I were him, I'd probably call it a day because I can't see him getting them any higher than that.
He said, what more could he do? Yeah.
That same Gary Neville now is saying, well, no, Mikel Arteta, you've come second 3 times. I've backed you to win the title those 3 times. This is your 4th time and you have to win it because that's the currency upon which Arsenal are judged, right? And I could sit here and I could do this for half an hour, bro. I could rattle off examples about how Arsenal are a talking point. And that, honestly, I don't mind it. I don't mind it when I'm looking at it from best goal difference in the league, most wins in the league, least losses in the league, top of the league. I sit there and I look at my WhatsApp group chats and I see people circulating links and I see the memes and I see other fans. You know what? As one of my mates who's a Liverpool fan, I mentioned this same guy on this pod a lot, actually. When we scored our first goal from a set piece on the weekend, he replied and said, touchdown Arsenal, as a joke. Like, you lot are like an NFL team. But in my head, I'm saying, I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
And I will sit there and smile. Unless and until it proves to be detrimental to the success of the team in this season, that's when I may start talking about it in a slightly different light. But at the moment, there's no reason for it to be. Think about it, bro. Like, I know it has to be spoken about to an extent because it's what we're here for. But we've been speaking for about half an hour. Yeah. This is a week where we're top of the league. There's been what is it? a 12-point swing between us and Liverpool in the last 3 or 4 weeks? Has it been 12? They were 5 ahead, right?
Something like that. They were 1.5 ahead, yeah.
I think they were
Now
5
we're
ahead.
7.
Exactly. A 12-point swing in about a month. And we're sitting here talking about, but do you score too many goals from corners and free kicks, boys? You know? I mean, the mainstream media to an extent do set the agenda, right? And fine, we will sit here and talk about it. But let's not... This kind of goes back... I'm sorry, I'm jumping around, but it goes back to your enjoy the moment point.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Let's not let this shit ruin any of the sweetness in terms of what we're witnessing now. And let's not let this whole, yeah, but you haven't got over the line yet stuff preclude us from enjoying what we're witnessing now and how good we really are. Because that would be doing not only the team a disservice, but also, bro, that's not why... Okay, look, winning things is kind of why I like football, right? And I'm fortunate enough to remember it. But that's not the sole reason why I follow this team. You know, I get enjoyment week in, week out from it. And I'm not going to let anyone take that away from me.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. My video on enjoying the moment was sort of saying, like, look, I vividly remember us beating Everton 4-0 at home. Do you remember when Bukayo Saka rifled the ball into the roof of the net, I think, from a Zinchenko pass? We won 4-0, and everyone was really, really happy. And I remember being on the full-time show going, guys, I'm really concerned about that first half. Like, we conceded a lot of chances. We were very open. I remember getting killed in the live chat for it. James, like, what are you doing? We've won. Why are you killing the vibe? Well, because I'm just like, this concerns me. We're trying to win a title, and that really worried me. I'll be honest, I was proven correct. Like, ultimately, the frailties at the back showed as we then lost to Southampton at home. We threw away 2-goal leads to Liverpool and West Ham, and the season went on how it did. And like I've been one to pour cold water on what feels like a high and a moment of kind of excitement for Arsenal. But the difference is that I saw something there that I felt was really going to be a problem for us. And I just don't feel that way about this team right now, because I feel like what I'm seeing in terms of weaknesses, I don't see them being problems, because I see them as things that we've done well already this season at some point, but also as things that we are improving on. People think this is very unpopular. Gyökeres, to me, is getting better. He is having an impact on the team. And people say it's all cope, James. You didn't say this for Havertz. I'm not going to go into I went over it in loose cannons a lot, and on my live yesterday on the Goonerverse. But I think he's improving. Zubimendi, I think, is having a very positive impact on and off the ball, even if he gives the ball away every now and again. The football, again, was it scintillating? Was it mind-blowing? No. But there's absolutely no question in my mind that Arsenal deserved to win the game. In a game where we didn't really create a lot, the only 2 shots of the first half were Trossard and Eze. They didn't do anything, Palace. They got near our goal, but we snuffed it out. And then I see a ball over the top to Trossard where he cuts back to Saka. That doesn't go in the back of the net. Saka fires one wide. Gabriel heads one onto the crossbar. He heads another one wide. Declan Rice has one cleared off the line. Gyökeres and Martinelli were in a few times. Eze and Trossard tried to pick out Gyökeres with a few cutbacks. So in the end, I'm going, we thoroughly deserved the win. We weren't brilliant. That's why in my head I'm like, I'm not sort of too worried. So I'm enjoying the moment, because we're doing things our rivals aren't. Finding a way. They're not playing brilliant football. Who's playing good football? No one is. So that's just the nature of the environment we're all in right now in the Premier League. So, okay, you're asked to do something else. What have you got? And Arsenal have the best answers right now.
Yeah, and to add a bit more context to that, Fulham away, a game where we didn't get points. We played them and we won. And then we had, a couple of days turnaround? And we went up against a team that is very often, in fact, praised for exactly what we're getting criticised for now.
Yeah.
Right? And a manager that is very often sort of highly regarded as one of the best in the world for doing exactly what our manager's doing, but our manager very often gets cussed out for it. We had to go and do that. And what did we do? Disposed of them. And then we had a decent enough gap, but then we had a team that has beaten our rivals, a team that has had an 18-19 game promising run. And I know they had a couple of losses in there, but they've had a very good run. They're coming off the back of a trophy. And what happens in that game? Saka's ill. Doesn't really have a very good game. Saliba takes a knock, comes off. Rice takes a knock, comes off, where the game is still very much in the balance. Calafiori takes a knock, comes off. We already have Ødegaard out. All the players that I named earlier. What do we do? What do? We go and win 2. So, yeah, sit there and look at the numbers, but numbers are just numbers. Look at the context within which these numbers are being achieved. Look at the reasons as to why the numbers look the way that they look, and look at what everyone tells us we should be looking at, which is what was the end result. We win on all fronts. We win on all fronts.
You're right. And I'm so glad you mentioned Fulham away, because as you said that, my brain is suddenly going, oh yeah, even in that game, 1-0, set piece, we weren't great. Okay, but what did we see? Calafiori offside in what was a very good goal from open play, be slightly offside. Cool, that can happen. Gyökeres, 2 strikes, they hit the palm of Leno, one of them Marte puts over the bar, that should be another goal. Saka beating his fullback, the ball trickles across the goal line before they clear it. Gyökeres played over the top by Trossard before he fires it over the net. I mean, how many chances do we expect to get away at very good Premier League sides? We're just playing better than people think. It's not super entertaining, super scintillating, but like I said, Brentford away, Villa away. Neither of them they're having some good moments and they've had some bad moments. But City and Liverpool can find a way, and I just give us credit for doing that. Massively. But this is probably a good time to go on to City and Liverpool then. What's wrong with them? Like, why have they fallen away quite a bit already so early in this title race? Although I still think they're absolutely in it.
Liverpool need to sort their defending out. Liverpool really, really need... And look, so for the shit that I've given Slot on this pod already, which wasn't a lot of shit, to be honest, but I did give him a little bit of shit. He has said, look, we need to start defending properly, but we need to start defending properly as a team. I'm not just talking about our defenders. I think he's trying to take a little bit of heat off not just the centre-backs, but also the full-backs. I mean, the full-backs have come in for some scathing criticism on all fronts. But I do think that, my friend, is unsustainable. If you're looking at, well, we're going to start every game knowing that we're going to concede at least 1, maybe 2, and I'm not talking about when we're up against world level opposition here. I'm talking about when we're up against, with all due respect, we're up against the Brentfords of the world, and we're still probably going to concede 2, if not more. You can't sustain a title challenge if we want to look at them through the lens of sustainability. It's just not there. And I know even I, at the beginning of the season, was saying, look, even if they concede 1 with Isak, with Ekitike, with Wirtz, with Gakpo, with Salah, they'll probably score 3 or 4 every game. But when that's not happening, and it doesn't happen every game, what are you going to do? Doesn't that make the way in which we've set up our team and we've addressed our squad look that much better now? Building from the back, making sure you have that solid foundation, making sure that, forget scoring a goal, making sure that it's hard to fashion a chance against you. That for me is one of the main problems, because notwithstanding everything that we've said about Wirtz not quite hitting the heights that everyone expected, notwithstanding everything we've said about what he's got this Isak Ekitike dilemma, notwithstanding what people are saying about Salah, they are still scoring. I can't think of many games where they haven't been able to get a goal. If they sort their defending out and they tighten up at the back, they'll probably at least turn some of these losses into draws and then eventually turn them into wins. That's what I'd be prioritizing if I was Slot. But easier said than done, man. As the weeks go by, that Gahey deal falling through looks more and more important in terms of the way that their title looks. And there's part of me now. Remember I said for the last international break, I said, look, this is where Slot needs to earn his money. Some of those players probably needed a reset, and he needs to come back and he needs to rejig it. In fairness, I think he has tried to rejig it, but it just hasn't worked. And I'm not sure if he's got the ideas at the moment to do it. Some might say it's ridiculous after the amount that they spent, but some might say he ain't got the personnel to do it at the back. It might be something, James, that they can and will only address in January. But by that point, certain man could be clear. Certain man could be clear, you know?
Well, we hope so. I'm just having a look right now at Arsenal's start to the 23-24 season, and this is an important point for 2 reasons. We started with a 2-1 win against Forest, a 1-0 win away at Palace, and then a 2-2 at home to Fulham. But in there, while we beat Man United and Everton, there was a 2-2 draw at home to Tottenham. Scrolling along a little bit, we drew 2-2 at Chelsea.
2-2 Tottenham, was that the Saka-Maddison one, where they both did that?
Yeah.
Okay.
We lost at Newcastle. To be fair, we're actually pretty more consistent than I realised. Right, and then we lost to Villa. We drew at Liverpool. We lost at home to West Ham. Then we lost at Fulham. Now, why am I going on about this? Because there was some inconsistent results, although looking back, we were a little bit more consistent than I realised. There were some inconsistent results there. But the big thing for me, and I remember my frustrations from 23-24, that first half of the season where I was going, this 11 feels so imbalanced. I don't know what we're trying to do. That was Ødegaard, Rice, Havertz in the midfield three. We were starting a lot of games with Nketiah up front in the absence of Jesus, and I didn't feel that they were like for like. And then we were doing things like Partey at right back because we were inverting that position. Then Zinchenko was in and out, which was strange. And we tinkered with a few areas of the team a bit too much. I basically look at City and Liverpool in that same way, which is I don't really understand your ideas. And I think that that Guardiola and Slot will abandon whatever it is they're trying to do at some point. And the day they do is probably the day they're going to click. And I'm going to give you examples of what I mean. I talked about this on Loose Cannons. City's 11 for Villa away. Let me get both the 11s in front of me. Their 11 for that game was midfield three, Bernardo Silva and Phil Foden in front of Tijani Reinders against the midfield of Kamara, Onana and Rodgers. What? Like, I'm staggered that Pep would have gone for that. Because Pep has respected the physicality of the Premier League before. And he's gone and put a leggy boxer, when I say leggy, I mean rangy, box-to-box midfielder as a 6, with an aging Bernardo Silva and an out-of-form Phil Foden as the 2-8s in front. Neither are the strongest. At least De Bruyne at least had some power, didn't he? They don't. They're strong in another way, but that's not what I'm trying to say here. I find that so strange. Now look, to be fair, they had more shots, they had more possession, but that's such a strange 11 to go with away at Villa when they've got Nunes at right back as well. The wingers people aren't convinced by, like Savinho. I've seen a lot of criticism for him. And then I look at Liverpool, who've been getting the balance of their midfield wrong. It's been Szoboszlai at right back. Now it's Szoboszlai in a double pivot with Curtis Jones. So Gravenberch and McAllister aren't playing. Whether there's a particular reason for that, I don't know. Wirtz is in and out. They've basically got 3 strikers in the front three with Gakpo, Salah, Ekitike. And their 2 fullbacks are really high and wide marauding fullbacks. Although they're being used, like Kirk is being used a little bit more tucked in. So anyway, all this to say that I just don't get the ideas. And what I fear is that the 2 of them go back to basics, because we've seen managers do this. We've seen Pep do it, and then the run goes. And that's where I fear they could do a little bit of what we did in 23-24. Now, we never lost 4 games in a row, and I don't think we ever looked as shaky as Man City do at this moment. But I think if they get the balance right again, it could click for both teams.
Yeah, maybe. But how many times have we sat there and said, "Don't look left and right. Let's focus on us. Let's keep it.
Sure.
Let's keep doing what we're doing, and then whether it clicks or not may not even matter." But you know what? It's mad when you were going through that City midfield. What was it? It was Foden, Silva, and Reinders. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. That really is exactly the sort of midfield that people would say, "My God, open play XG is going to be mad." And with Haaland up front, look at that. That's exactly the level of technicality and creativity and dynamism that you'd want. But how did that go? Bro, I guarantee you, if the midfield that people cuss when it comes to Arsenal, the Rice, Zubimendi, Marino midfield, the midfield where everyone goes, you ain't got enough creativity in there. You're just choosing your DMs. You're just choosing your destroyers. I guarantee you that midfield sets up a much better foundation against that Villa team than the City midfield would. Right? And
John, the answers, mate. Man City's XG against Villa, 1.05 with all the creativity and the world's best striker, 1.05 against Villa. Arsenal's against Palace, 1.14. So we had a higher XG after all that.
There you go. And I mean, admittedly, we were at home, and it wasn't quite the midfield that I was talking about, because I was talking about our midfield with Marino in there, right? I was talking about the pure physicality midfield. Yeah. The stuff that we really get criticized for. But yeah, I think it would. And also, I guarantee you that XG against would probably be a bit better too. We look at what we need to do to get over the line. I completely agree with you in terms of, yes, in theory they could go back to basics and things will click. But don't forget what back to basics means for these teams, bro. Back to basics for these teams means Rodri is on fire, not just fit, but on fire. They ain't got him. They ain't got him. And when he comes back, who knows what it's going to be? Who knows what it's going to be, bro? These guys, again, look, I think Oscar Bob started that game, man. Now, Oscar Bob, very promising player, but he's never been part of that City team where we talk about them going back to basics, right? Even when Haaland was absolutely blazing it, there was a time where they had Alvarez who was contributing too. They ain't got that anymore, man. So when we're talking about back to basics, we do need to look at personnel. We can look at Liverpool too. Right, let's talk about back to basics. Back to basics for them, big man, they had Trent Alexander-Arnold. He's not there anymore. Back to basics for them was Robertson. Robertson, for everything that we're saying about him, I do think that the replacement was brought in because they think Robertson's aging and they do kind of want to phase him out. Back to basics for them is Alisson. Alisson's not there right now. And who used to step in for them? Kelleher. Talk about Mamadashvili all you want, man, but Kelleher was a very, very, very able replacement. He came in and did some crucial work too. Back to basics for them was an in-form McAllister. They haven't got it. Back to basics for them wasn't Gakpo on the left, man. It was Diaz, who's ripping it up right now. It was, God rest his soul, Diogo Jota. It was Mohamed Salah last year having a season where people thought he should be winning the Golden Boot. He ain't there no more. They ultimately can't go back to what they used to do because they haven't got the same personnel now, which is where this shift in ideas may have had to come from, because you need to deal with the players that are in front of you. I don't know if it's that easy to just say they're going to go back to what they used to do, because they may not have the people to do it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it's that easy. I don't think it's click your fingers, tweak the system a bit and all is fine and dandy. And that's what gives me a lot of hope in this title race, is that I'm sort of thinking, I don't really quite know how they solve their problems. Essentially, I think Liverpool are totally imbalanced, but the players are there. Whereas I think City, the players aren't there. Though they have more balance and probably a few different ideas as to what they could do. They could play a double pivot with Sheroy in the 10. They could play a Bernardo or a Foden wide, or they could go for a Doku. I think they've got kind of more tools. City, their tools just aren't as good as Liverpool's. Arsenal, I think, are in that in-between, where I think we've got like better balance, better ideas, and better players, but not the best player of all three, which is a Haaland or a Salah or a Van Dijk or a whatever. But as a collective of all those things, I think Arsenal are the best of the three.
Yeah, there is one more thing, and I want to cut City and Liverpool a bit of slack here. Yeah, is it not natural when you're talking about City that have won? I don't need to rattle it off. We know how many titles they've won over the last 10 years. When you're talking about a Liverpool team that did just win the title last year and have just lost a member of their team, not to a transfer, but to a tragedy, is it not normal for a team like Arsenal, who have been on the cusp, to maybe look like they're hungrier, to maybe look like they're going to be the team that this year doesn't take no for an answer? Because we haven't done it. And this group of players does really want to do it. Is that not something that does come into play too? I mean, look, I know I do this very often, but it is the way that I approach football too. I look at football through the lens of just like normal life, right? Because these people ultimately, they may not have normal lives, but they're still humans. When I didn't have the job that I wanted, bro, I was really, really hungry for it. But then when you get that job and you work there for 4 or 5 years, and you kind of settled in, it becomes a bit normal. And there might be some little young up and comer who's coming up, and he might be a little bit more hungry than you. And he might start impressing a little bit more than you, and he might have that bit between his teeth a little bit more than you. So as much as you might want to up your game, sometimes there is just someone who just wants it that little bit more. Maybe that's us this year. And that, taken with everything that you rattled off about the ideas, about the personnel, about the balance, all of it needs to go your way for us to get over the line. And that might be it.
Yeah, so I totally agree with that. I think when it comes to looking at the human side of it, just what's natural, what comes naturally to these people, because they have lives, they all have things going on. I think to myself, I'm more than happy to use that excuse in terms of defending the almost legacy of those players and the managers. So, for example, Arne Slot is getting it absolutely wrong at Liverpool right now, but I don't think anyone should ever be calling for him to be sacked or replaced because of what he's just done winning the title. I don't think anybody should be remotely criticising Guardiola as some kind of fraud or past it, or looking past these Man City players saying, yeah, they're not the same. The respect remains, because of the legacy of what they've done. And so you always kind of go through the lens of, well, look, they've done it, and credit to them. Therefore, we'll talk about them in a slightly different way, a slightly different tone. I also think that's part of why there's a slightly different media narrative with Arsenal than with them. But anyway, we've moved on from that. What I don't really allow as an excuse, I get the hunger thing. I do get the hunger thing. But footballers have short careers. And they have to be ultra focused. They have to be focused all week, but ultra focused for 90 minutes once or twice a week. Like, I'm inclined to say that City and Liverpool have fallen away from Arsenal because Arsenal are doing a better job than them, not because it's a lack of hunger. I just think Arsenal are doing a better job than them. And if the tables turn and they go ahead of us, is because they're doing a better job than us, not because they kind of rediscovered that hunger again. I'm happy to use the kind of human side to defend those who have really achieved things in the game, because I think we're so quick in this modern media space to just kind of hate on everyone and everything, no matter how much they've achieved. But I'm not really kind of giving them the excuse, not with the money that's spent. Like they've rejuvenated that squad enough, Man City. You know, Nico doesn't have a title. Shirky doesn't have a title. Doku does have one. But you know what I mean? There's plenty of players who don't have them or want more. And there have been other teams over the years that have created dynasties where they went again and again and again and again, managers and players. They're incredible, Liverpool and City. I would love for Arsenal to have even half in the next 5 years of what they've had the last 5 years. I would love that. But I just don't really use the hunger thing as an excuse for them at all. But I think you raised a good point.
No, fair enough.
But it's interesting because how do we put ourselves in the minds of Slot and Guardiola to try and understand what's going wrong? These guys are footballing geniuses, and it's just two guys with a mic trying to figure it out ourselves. But that's kind of the fun of it, isn't it?
Yeah. How do you feel when you listen to their press conferences, man? Because with Slot in particular, now I do listen to his presses, and I feel like he's losing it a little bit. That there's just something that's a little bit more tetchy, sometimes a little bit too candid with the way in which he articulates himself in terms of how he thinks his opponent ought to play, for example, and the weaknesses. It was, in fact, something that people used to criticize Amorim a lot for, which is, we like the fact that you have your heart on your sleeve, but you're maybe a little too honest at times. And there is an ever so slightly increasing level of cynicism and sarcasm that's coming from Guardiola, which was always there to an extent, even when he was winning. So I'm not just going to say it's appearing now. But when I look at their press conferences and I look at the press conferences of Mikel Arteta at the moment, I think with many things, these things are top down. And I think the messaging, what's happening now, top down at Arsenal, it does instill a level of assuredness and calmness and belief in me anyway, when I listen to our manager. And when I listen to their managers, I don't quite feel that. And I do feel like that is translating on the pitch a little bit, because one thing that Arteta always says is it's our job to give our players clarity. And once you give them that clarity, that's when you see your message really being enforced on the pitch. I think he's been doing, well, not just him, he emphasizes that it's the entire coaching staff. I think we're doing a really good job of that. I'm not entirely sure those other managers and those coaches are giving their team the requisite clarity that they need right now in terms of the identity and their playing style and how they're going to get to where they need to be anytime soon.
Oh, well, I agree. And I think you can see that in the 11s. I think, you know, like we were just saying, from a distance, you look at it and go, this doesn't really make a lot of sense. I don't know why they're doing it. And I imagine some players might be feeling the same way, whether they're privy, well, they will all be privy to what's being said behind the scenes. That doesn't mean it always makes sense. What was the original question you asked? It was, do I think they're losing it a little bit in terms of what they're saying?
How do you feel when you listen to them now? Do you think there's any market difference?
I haven't listened to enough of what Pep said. I think Arteta, who I was critical about earlier in the season, and last season, I think he's using the media very well in the last few weeks and months, as he is his squad, as he is a lot of things. So full credit to Mikel Arteta for that. But that's maybe the nature of winning, right? And that on being on top, you know, it's easier to have that stance on things. Very quickly, I would say that Slot, I think some people are taking him just being honest and just saying some facts. I think some people are taking that more negatively. like he's probably right. Teams are probably going more long ball against Liverpool. They weren't expecting them last season to be as good as they were. They were expecting them to be a little bit more exposed, perhaps in a transition phase, and actually they weren't. So he probably does feel that there's a completely different way of playing, and they're not ready for that. That's fine. It just comes across as an excuse, but I actually think what he's saying is pretty factual. What I think is probably more concerning is how comfortable he's been to kind of criticize other players, saying, you know, well, we lost the goal because someone sprinted out. What does that do? That prompts everyone to go watch that goal and see who sprinted out. And he's been critical of others missing some chance in certain ways a little bit. I don't know. If I were a Liverpool fan, and no, I've been an Arsenal fan who's been concerned with some things Arteta said in press conferences before, but if I were a Liverpool fan, I'd be most concerned with simply the tactics and the 11 he's going out with, rather than what he's saying, because I think managers can always be a bit prickly when things aren't going well. Is that your feeling in general?
Yeah, but I think all right, you know how we were talking about how he describes teams going long? He takes it that one step further and he says teams are going long, which actually means that we can't do what we wanted to do and we can't press them high and win the ball back. So we need to figure something else out. He takes it that little step further.
It's a little bit like, well, what can I do? It's not, you know. So
even if it's true, sometimes as a manager, I think there are certain things that you just don't say, particularly when you're already with a slightly panicky fan base and think. I mean, look, I'm not just saying that it's not been ideal. It's been actively bad. And look, the way that you described Arsenal, where you were saying, well, I'm not too concerned about what people are describing as our weaknesses because I've seen enough throughout the season to show that we can address that. Well, even when things were going well for Liverpool in terms of results, these weaknesses were in fact being identified, and the chickens have just come home to roost now, and the results are now reflecting what they very easily could have reflected when they were perfect for 5 or 6 games, right? So it has been there. The fan base has been on a bit of an edge, and they were taking everything until the last minute. I don't know if he's helping, because it is your job as a manager to manage the players, but you are also ultimately the face of the club. You are the front-facing person. You know, you're the person that is sadly probably one of the most important people when it comes to regulating your fan base's emotions. And I think he needs to get that balance. I think he needs to figure that out quickly too, because I'm not suggesting that anyone needs to call for his job, and I don't think anyone should be, but football fans can be unforgiving, man. And even if you've done something great for them, they can turn on you pretty quickly, and it becomes more difficult for your players if they do.
I didn't think we would leave ourselves just 2 minutes to go through the Brighton 11, but time...
I didn't, brother. I haven't looked at it until just now. I thought we were about half an hour in. Oh my God.
Okay, I know I said it a few pods ago, but this is actually the fastest pod's ever gone. I've really enjoyed the chat. I
hope actually really irresponsible of us.
A little bit, because we were meant to do a half-hour section on Brighton, and we've left ourselves 3 minutes. So it might go over a little.
What the cut means to us, and my God, yeah, that was going to... fine, okay, yeah, let's go.
That's what we said in the intro. So everyone who's listened all the way through, apologies. Look, I think we can do this in bullet point form. We want the Carabao Cup. We want us to win it. We know it's not the biggest trophy, but we think Arsenal needs success and silverware. We've talked about this before. The 11s, let's build them super quickly. Who would you go in goal, Raya or Kepa?
Kepa.
Cool, agreed. Right back, would you be bringing White in for Timber?
Yeah.
Cool. Kepa, White. Your back four. How do you want that to look very quickly?
I'm going Mosquera and Miles, but because I've gone White, Mosquera and Miles, people might look at me like I'm a nutter. I am playing Gabriel.
No, I kind of get it. So White, Mosquera, Gabriel, Miles, Lewis Skelly. I would go White, Mosquera, Calafiori at centre back, and Lewis Skelly.
Are you comfortable with that?
Oh, I do want to win. This is tough.
I want at least one starting defender in his starting position. I know you put Calafiori in there, but that's not really
where he's playing as well, you know.
Yeah, but then you're actually changing the entire back four.
Okay, do you know what? You've convinced me. Okay, White, Mosquera, Gabriel. Ooh.
I know.
I'm taking him out because he's too important right now. I'd take him out, and I'd go and Capia, Lewis Skelly. And I know that is major changes, but I just would do it. Right. But then the midfield, I'd keep pretty similar. So what would you go for your midfield three?
Marino. Zubimendi is going to have to hold it. Eze.
I'd go Marino, Zubimendi, Eze. Yeah, I agree with that. Okay. On the right?
Cool. Ethan.
Yeah, I'd go Waneri. Even though Arteta has shown no interest in playing him on the right or seeing him as a right winger, I'd go Waneri on the right. On the left?
Gabriel Martinelli.
Yeah, same. There's enough creativity in Eze and Waneri, so I go Martinelli. And then up front...
The only eligible striker, given that I've just put Marino in midfield.
I'd stick with Gyökeres. I know he's played way too much football, but I would look to get him off like at half-time for Trossard. I would be fine with Trossard on the left and Martinelli up front. But yeah, okay. All right, let us know your 11s in the comment section below, people. Sorry we didn't talk about that in more detail. I think, look, it's still early stages of the Cup. Let's hope we can get through. If we do get through, we're into a quarter-final, am I right?
Yeah, if you're going back to the predictions, I think this is the round that you said we'd get knocked out in.
Brilliant, well done me. I mean, it's Brighton.
I think you said we'd get a Premier League draw. And this would be the one that takes us out. So I'm hoping you're wrong.
Oh no. Well, I hope I'm wrong too. If we go through, of course, the conversation around the importance will really start to hold some weight. Sorry we didn't talk more about it, people. We genuinely intended to, but I think there was a lot to get into there with Liverpool City, the media, and just, yeah, lots going on. You'll find me on Loose Cannons. That's out on Turkish's channel. You'll find me on Inside Gooners on TalkSport as well. That's going to be my debut. Look forward to that. And of course, I will be doing a match reaction on Goonerverse News and a live stream player ratings after, hopefully, we beat Brighton. But let's see.
When are they going to find me on Loose Cannons, big man? My phone hasn't been ringing. What's going on here?
Listen, Turkish is the boss. That's what I'm saying. Turkish.
I need to call him, yeah?
Well, after you represented him poorly as his lawyer for Forever Arsenal, I don't know who he's got into.
All right. I'll pick up the phone.
He'll be in touch. Don't you worry, man. You were the most requested guest.
No, I get it, bro. I get it. Tosin came on and he said, keep it in the family. And then Sharky came on. Obviously, he's got a massive following. Then you're bringing on Man from Filthy. I get it, bro. I don't take it personally. It's all good. Don't worry about it, man.
You're Sheroy from the Goonerverse podcast, mate. You're the biggest of the lot.
That's the one, man. People need to know. On a channel that can nearly fill up the Emirates stadium, big man, yeah?
Exactly.
Come on.
Exactly. Mate, I always have a pleasure doing this with you. So big thank you. I can't believe how quickly that... We're normally really good at being like tight with the topics, but this is definitely the most we kind of went on each one. But hopefully people feel like we went through it in enough detail. I wrote down some titles. I'm going to say them to you now. You can tell me your favourite. But we're going to round it off there. A big thank you to everyone. Hit the like button if you did enjoy this podcast. Remember, we are on all podcast platforms as well. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and leave us your comments and thoughts ahead of Brighton and what you want to see through the week. Obviously, we'll be back next week to discuss more Arsenal. I think it's Champions League football, so we'll work out a day that works best. All right, big thanks, Sheroy, as always. Big thanks to all of you tuning in. We'll catch you in a bit.